All right, good morning, good evening, good night, NFT Live Web3 Network. It's a new week in Web3. You survived the last one. We're square kind of in the middle of September here. I want to give a big, I don't even know how to kind of say it, but never forget 9/11, man. This was definitely the memorial day there for the tragic events that happened on September 11th, 2001. So they will never be forgotten, as well as the folks who went overseas and fought for the United States in the military. So yeah, I wanted to give a brief, quick intro there. Gifted, we're going to be talking a lot about what's happening across the space. Friend Tech is back. Parallel patch notes are out. Prime token is continuously up. If you've been following the channel for the last month and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. If you caught us 2 years ago, we were shilling Prime token, not financial advice, but Prime is up big here in the last month. So not just some game news, but more on the token front as well. Definitely excited for this one. Gifted, what's going on, man?
Yeah, great to be back with you, sir. Bubblegum Cowboy Q. I think Bubblegum Cowboy is the full middle name. I don't know. We're working on it. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of sticky things happening today. If you came in from the GM Web3 morning show, great show over there. We had a good time as much as we could on a somber day. It is 9/11, as you mentioned. We don't go too deep into politics and a lot of other things here, but it is obviously a day to remember. And so thanks for mentioning that. And we will still do what we do. We show up here pretty much every day and do our best to still cover Web3, regardless of what's going on, whether it's raining, whether it's sunshine out, whether the markets are up or down, bears or bulls, doesn't really matter. We're here doing our best to keep up to date with you and curate the most important information from around all of Web3, which is a lot, right? We cover tech, design, culture, NFTs, gaming. There's a lot, but we do our best to cover it all. And you know what? Your help is always appreciated too. So those of you who are over there in the chat, who are commenting on X with us, sharing headlines and things that are breaking, just know that we always appreciate that as well. And all of this, if you didn't know, goes into the rehash, which is a new recap that we do on the X as well, as we expand our products and our things that we try and provide as services. You know, we're always doing our best to keep adding more value and curating the headlines, providing editorial and analysis where we can. So yeah, that's what all of this does here. We cover it all.
Yeah, we put the rehash out there on Friday as well. So we're going to cover on a couple topics that happened on Friday, including Rec League having its inaugural kind of Founders Cup action. So there's some trailers there. We also have the Solana phone making an appearance. We don't want to trigger any maxis just by saying those words, but Marquise Brownlee, the YouTube content creator, I always hate to use the term influencer, so I'll use content creator. He put out a little bit of a review. It wasn't necessarily scathing. He wasn't coming out and saying, just getting after, but he said don't buy it. So maybe that's scathing.
Well, didn't you say the quote was that the coolest thing about it was the charging cable?
Yeah, maybe I did. Maybe I did. All right, Jawa GM DP is in the house saying Q couldn't wait to put that Cowgirls gear on. Listen, 40-0 against a arch nemesis, the New York Giants, on Sunday night. Is there a better time to wear it? No. Go Cowboys. How about them? Going to be a great season. Nox Darkness saying it's my birthday today. 62 years old. Want to give a big shout out to the birthday boy there, Nox. Hopefully he's cooking up something good.
9/11 is an interesting birthday to have also. We should point that out. That for the last 23 or some odd years, that's probably been an interesting experience for you.
Yeah, easy and crypto in the house. Prodigy saying a moment of silence for sure. 9/11 was like definitely one of those moments in history where you're sitting there saying, I can remember exactly where I was. Like even to this day, being in, I believe, 5th grade and being in my 5th grade class and watching it on the TV. That's at least where I was. Now, I also
I was in 8th grade chemistry class watching it on the TVs. Yeah.
It was an unfortunate event, man, and everything that's conspired since then has been tough to deal with as well. Like obviously having those forever wars that had what feels like minimal impact there in the Middle East, any minimal positive impact. But again, we're not going to get too far down in politics. But again, condolences to the families of not only the victims on that day, but to the folks who had people go overseas and be in the military and lose their lives there. So, and the civilians in those countries.
Responders.
I mean, geez, there's so many. There's such a fallout from that single moment in history. It's kind of tough to just wrap your mind around how important and how impactful that fucking day was in a negative way. So yeah, big shout out to Knox there for your birthday, man, as well. So a happy birthday there. All right. Any last words here before we jump into kind of just getting this episode started, Gift Dad? I know you had a pretty good weekend. Do too much. You do all right?
Well, yesterday was a beautiful day. Got out to the beach with a whole big group of people, had a good time. It was a beautiful day out there. Will Rogers, Santa Monica, and then went and got some good Persian food. Even made it to the gym briefly, got a steam in. It was a great day. Yeah, solid
all
Sunday.
Right. Breakdown for today is going to be this. Friendtech has made a little bit of a surge and comeback. You know, we covered this about a month ago, so we're a little bit on the cutting edge here, of course, in the NFT space. So we're able to kind of hit these stories as they come out. I think the NFT folks were some of the first folks to really pick up on this product and what was happening. There was a lot of larger accounts that were kind of shilling this. It seems to be that there is volume, users, all of the sentiment all increasing here for Friendtech over the last 48 hours. We've seen kind of a lull for a little bit after we covered it about 2 weeks ago majorly. We all had our predictions then. It's a complex topic. We'll have to kind of break it down into pieces. Whether this is going to be a long-term viable app is a great question to throw out. Whether this stuff is worth anything, whether people should actually be jumping into Friendtech over there on the base protocol. So all these different questions. But yes, Friendtech is essentially back in the radar and the limelight here based on the volume and the users picking up over the last 48 hours. So Friendtech, we're going to touch on some Twelvefold pieces. Parallel, we're going to get to early in the episode. Prime token's up big. Speaking of Friendtech being up big, Prime is still continuing to ascent here overall. I think it's down on the day, but it is up.
It's holding above 4. It's been sitting around 4, and it jumped up to like $4.60. And yeah, it is important also for us to always mention, for your safety and ours, that this is not financial advice. All information was publicly found on the interwebs. Opinions shared on this episode are solely of the Web3 team, and all information is public domain. Always do your own research. We're not financial advisors. That said, wish I had more Prime token. Yeah, do we want to talk about Parallel or do we want to talk about Friendtech?
Yeah, no, let's get into Parallel right up front because I think we can hit this story. Those of you that are in the audience or are watching afterwards, definitely drop your comments here on Parallel if you're getting into that. We've been covering it again pretty heavily since we dove into the closed beta there once on-chain summer launched on Base. Let me look here quickly at the Prime token. So the market's not looking the greatest on the day. It looks a little shaky, if you will. Bitcoin 25K holding above that, but you can see over the past hour or two, prices have fallen off a cliff here. So in the 1550 range on ETH. But yes, let's look at the Echelon Prime token here. We can see where we're at. So holding at 4, like Giftad just said, it's taken a little bit of a dip with the broader market. But over the last 90 days, you can see a nice stairs up, which gives me hope. Because ApeCoin is doing that chart if you flipped it upside down.
Yeah, it's like it's still above $1.
Yes, it is. And Marty, I'm sure, will say, hey, eat your heart out to us. We were talking about ApeCoin. Obviously, we've been holding for a long time here. My consistent response to any negative ape FUD is that, yes, it'll likely go down in the short term. But over the long term, over the next year or two, is my time frame. Again, not financial advice. Ape will do extremely well. So when I look at this Prime chart, it's simultaneously gives me the FOMO vibes. I did not pack my bag yet on Prime, although I do think I have some time to get into this. But it also gives me solace in the ApeCoin that when they figure out the mechanics of what they need to do, the levers they need to pull, all these different things, which they clearly haven't, like the staking and the amount of funds that are being likely dumped from VCs at this point, has significantly affected the ApeCoin price. But you can see that when the levers are correct and you have a good game, the sentiment is there, and also the sinks are there for something like Prime to make it go up 300% in the last 90 days or something like that. So it's absolutely wild to see Prime take off in that time frame, but it's cool to see from that community. It seems like a good group of founders, and they've got a strong community. You go into the Discord, all that stuff. So we're up here shilling all of that. I'm sure Marty will have something to say on ApeCoin here in a moment. Do you have any follow-up on the Prime token before we jump into quickly the patch notes that hit just today? I gave a very brief breakdown here in thread form on X, but what do you got on the Prime token, if anything?
I think it would be cool to dive a little bit further just into like what are those levers and the things that we actually think are working well, that they're doing really well with Parallel, because that gives a little bit of insight into, you know, maybe what Retley can do, and also what you said, you know, ApeCoin and Yuga can maybe improve on. Because there's a lot of different parts to the Parallel ecosystem, but it does seem like it's pretty well thought out and it's working. It's like what they're doing right now is working well. The demand, the product's good. That's obviously the most important kind of foundational part of it, right? Is that you have to have a cool game and it's actually deep. On that note, I've been so triggered by Marco's and like even Earthen, but how out of balance the game has been as I'm, you know, this Shroud main over here trying to figure out how to compete with these extremely OP factions. Nifty Q has given me all kinds of hell saying, I hate Shroud. Shroud's the worst, like, because they banish and like, yeah, but they're not OP at all right now. So I'm very happy that there's a patch and that they've nerfed Marco's, at least Earthen a little bit, but they didn't buff Shroud. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. Look, the game's interesting. The art is compelling. The lore is compelling. It's very deep.
It's all there.
Also, on the game content side of things, they're rolling out physical cards, which is cool too. Again, there's just a lot happening there, and when you have a rich world and a cool product, cool art, like you can do a lot with it. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do with the physical cards and where that goes. Definitely awesome to see that happening as well, though. As far as like the different levers, so I did pick up a bunch more first edition cards over the weekend, because one of the levers, and actually one of the primary levers for the demand, is that the way that you get rewarded for wins in the game and actually make some Prime token for playing the sort of play to earn mechanic is that you stack your deck full of NFTs and then also get keys and other NFTs. And all of this together adds like incremental small boosts to your payout percentages and things like this, right? And so you don't have to have NFTs. That's another good thing that they're doing. Like you can play without buying a bunch of NFTs. You can get in, you can have a good time, you can learn the game. You can even do pretty well potentially, but you can't really earn Prime or earn a lot of Prime without the NFTs. So it doesn't stop you from playing, doesn't stop you from getting exposure, getting into the world, enjoying it, playing with your friends, all that type of stuff. However, it just provides additional play to earn rewards and benefits.
Yeah. So the biggest piece to add to that as well, Gifted, is that you own the special editions or Prime editions. Again, we're talking about this because if you can find another project that is pulling the levers that Prime is doing, that's actually going to be beneficial to you, in my opinion, long term. So one of the things to add on to what Gifted said, so you own the special edition, like what you would call maybe a holographic card in Pokemon. Well, you have to spend Prime to make that into an actual card that you can sell now. So there will only be so much of the first edition special editions, but as the game becomes more popular, people are going to want to obviously buy cards like they do in Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, all that stuff. you'll have to actually spend Prime if you're the first edition or special edition holder in order to make a copy of it and then sell it. So that is a lever. There's so many different ones. Obviously, like you can buy glints, which is their in-game currency for that. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole before getting into the patch notes. That was the big thing I was going to cover today. But Gift, do you have any last thoughts here? I see you have some.
Well, I just wanted to show, like, I'm collecting as many of these as I can right now, given, I have pretty limited ETH liquidity, because it does still cost some gas to collect these on Ethereum. But I've got a little bit of Prime, and you can see like some of them, like this one, I bought 6 of these, I bought 3 of these, 5 of these, 5 of these. The reason I'm getting multiples isn't just because I use multiple, like people that like these cards, a lot of times they use multiples of them in their decks, but the popular cards, a lot of people are going to be using them. So I'm speculating a little bit here that, even though there's 60,000 or something like that of these first edition cards out there, if thousands of people are all playing with them and want to get the NFTs and then maybe even buying multiple of them, there might be enough demand for these to go up a little bit, right? So I don't think by any means that these are going to like make thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm just kind of speculating a little bit on some of the more popular, commonly used cards right now that, they do have some kind of limited supply if you want to stack your decks with the NFTs to max out your Prime. So there you go.
All right, I'm going to jump into the patch notes really quick here from the update. So again, if you're consistently playing the game, I think we had a question said, hey, if you get good and higher, the more money you can potentially win. That is a function of the game as well. Like, again, this is a experiment, what they're doing with Web3 gaming. I think some games have taken it too far on the play to earn concept. But yes, there's a play to earn mechanic that the better you are, the more tokens you're being rewarded per win. Anyways, patch notes, super important. Marcos have been OP, overpowered for the majority of this last patch. The last patch, I believe, hit about 2 weeks ago. Earthen, in my opinion, has been okay. Like, I could see where people were like, hey, they're a little bit overpowered. There's also an idea amongst games, and I just want to throw this out there, that there's a higher tier of play, and there's kind of like the public tier of play. Like, I'm a big League of Legends player. There's like Challenger and Diamond, and all of these, that level of play and higher is definitely another meta. And then what you see is like the public also has a meta to play in and of itself. So Earthen could it, for example, be okay at the bottom tier, but overpowered at the really high tier of play, that they'll still need to figure that out. That's not like going to be that's not going to be something unique to Web3 games. So anyways, Marco has been just tearing it up everywhere. Apparently Earthen has been tearing it up at the higher levels of play. Cathari has been Augencore has been, and it is the biggest winner from this patch in my opinion. And then Shroud is just basically untouched here in this patch, which to me is a good thing, because Earthen got completely nerfed. Gifted is saying, hey, what's up with Shroud? Like, hey, what's up with Earthen?
We're just got nerfed, being left out, just being left out in the cold out here. The Singularity is a cold, cold place. We're out here in the void, just floating around by ourselves. This man is just hitting puns.
Puns on puns.
It's I'm kind of surprised a little bit by Cathari getting that much of a buff, and also Augencore, to your point, because those both have potential to be way OP too. Like, the upgrades on Augencore are absurd.
Yeah,
like they really are. So I don't know. I'm kind of scared now to play Augencore and Cathari if they're both buffed.
Yeah, Earthen got completely just eviscerated. Like, the main guy, Gafar, is who I'm using, the main Paragon. He got completely nerfed. Axeman got taken out. Likely what I think you'll see from this is continuous Marcolian play. We'll see how you start doing with the Shroud against Marcos now that they got nerfed a little bit. And I think Augencore is going to be the biggest. The Augencore is going to do the best from this, because they were already kind of doing well, and they got touched up a little bit.
Yep. Look, clearly we're excited and into this game. This is what's cool about it, man. There's actually a Web3 game that like is warranting this level of interest and investment and excitement.
Okay. We're trailer maxis here, so we're going to get into a trailer here. Some breaking news from NFTGo. So we got a trailer here for the 2-year anniversary. Let's jump in. All right, so you got a little piece there at the end because there's some announcement that was going along with this in the post. So you see Genesis NFT incoming. They also said in the tweet, as we mark our 2nd anniversary, we're thrilled to unveil something monumental for our community, the Genesis NFT campaign. So it looks like we're getting an NFT from NFTGo. What that looks like, who knows? But that's the big thing that Jared was hinting at there from the NFTGo announcement.
All right, Jared. All right, NFTGo. Go figure, an NFT from NFTGo. That's cool, though. I'm excited to see where it goes. Jesus, too many puns. My brain's broken, Q. Pull me out of it.
I'm going to attempt to do that. Also, Marty, I think Prodigy was actually saying, is it that's y'all's opinion because y'all can't beat certain decks, or is it like a general consensus around the NFT community? That's a really great point. That's an interesting factor that you have to play in.
Which part is he asking about specifically?
Say that one more time. I lost you.
Well, I didn't understand which part he was asking about was like our opinion or like the general consensus. I mean, look, they wouldn't be applying global nerfs and buffs if they were just local, problems, right? These are obviously like they're looking at the data across the whole game and they're saying, hey, we're seeing a lot of skew. They're probably seeing a lot of Shroud people kind of mixed in the mid range, and they're saying, okay, maybe this is like what we're aiming for. And then they look at, the performance of the other factions and they say, oof, we're seeing people skewing too hard this way or that way.
All right. DP is saying they could have given us better house music in that NFTGo trailer. Potentially. We'll pass the word on. We'll see what they say about that. And Knox saying, for the record, I totally agree with GIF about the happy birthday song. Just don't. Wow. That's one I shouldn't have brought up here on the show. Anyways, I do want to get to Friendtech. Friendtech feels like the biggest story.
Somebody gets it.
Of the week here. So I definitely want to get to that. I think a really great tie-in is to kind of look at the market on the NFT side as it stands today. We did have some other breaking news, like I said, at the end of last week, but let's take a look at where we are right now on the NFT scene. Not much movement here in the last 7 days, although I think what you will see, at least when you kind of take a look at a broad chart, like something on Blur or OpenSea, is that we did see a little bit of a run up over the last week, and then it's just pulled back a little bit. So like something like a Bored Ape, I think ran up to like 28 ETH and then has pulled back to 26.9. And just that's my general consensus here on the take. Consistently, Remilio babies and Miladies are the ones that are getting most hit. Nouns has a really interesting thing going on with them too. They have a Nouns DAO buyback that I would love to get into. Pudgies are just holding strong. Onis are down. Nakas are down big. I think they got up to like 0.42 off that fall is coming.
Got higher
expectation.
They got like 0.45 or something. Yeah, I was
0.45. Okay.
Yeah, almost a half ETH floor on the Nakas, but they're back down again. They've just been ranging. They've been between like 0.2 and 0.8. It's just go up and down.
Yeah, over the last, I would say 2 weeks, they've gotten consistently like way more volatile for sure. I think again 0.46. You were saying something like that. CloneX was up big off some I think just small amount of traders, but some large volume. They're now down 10%. Mocaverse got some big news that I can pull up here in a moment. Some from Whale, as well as I believe they made their own announcement that they were getting some funding from Animoca Brands. So that's always going to be a legitimate bullish case there for any project that's associated with Animoca. You probably have a little bit more runway than others. All right. That's all I'm seeing from here. We can go into the Friendtech news, which is going to be that, this app, this, what you would call like social this social trading app, right? Like that's part of the discussion that I have right there on the thumbnail is Friendtech the next social token app. We saw a bunch of social tokens run in 21. We've seen few really do well since that time. I think NFTs really ran with that narrative. What you have with Friendtech now is a resurgence in volume. More people are getting interested. It's kind of like what we saw 2 weeks ago, but up to on steroids. That's essentially the environment that we're in. Mostly off the case that there's going to be some type of airdrop. So the more keys you hold, the more token you get, and that is what is fueling this run now. So a lot of different things to touch on with Friendtech, but I think the idea is the NFT floor prices and NFT volume is tied into this, right? Like, because you do see liquidity moving towards something. It just isn't into NFTs. So while we see NFT volumes a little bit down and consistently down, I think we've reached maybe a support level. We do see liquidity moving into Friendtech. So again, wide discussion. I'm happy to have that with y'all in the chat as well. We're going to drop a couple polls, and I want to hear what y'all's take is on Friendtech. It looks like Marty McFly saying social Ponzi. Gifted, what do you got, man?
Yeah, he's not wrong, but of course Marty would say that, but he's not wrong on this one for sure. We've talked about it from the jump, but I wish I could run back the tape on this to what we were saying, what I specifically was saying a couple weeks ago, because I believe what I said was that I think this thing will probably stick around for at least a few months and maybe at least through the holidays. And we're seeing it continue to pick up. The token speculation about a token drop on this app, I feel like has a lot of legs because it's Paradigm backing it, which is the same people behind Blur. It's the same people behind Art Gobblers. DeFi expertise and being able to growth hack a new project through some kind of tokenomics, token scheme, gamifying an airdrop of some kind. This is literally what they do. This is their specialty. So all I'm saying is I would actually be surprised if there's not a token drop. So I think that there's some legitimacy to people speculating around that right now. A lot of people talking about like, oh, is it sustainable? I think there's two different conversations to have that we need to kind of like pick apart here. There's the like, is it going to be a sustainable app? Is there a legitimate product market fit? Are they just paying for users that are going to leave as soon as the airdrop or, you know, as soon as it dries up? And is this just a quick pump and dump? Or is there something more material here that I should be building into and thinking about this in some kind of long-term context, because this app provides some kind of new meaningful value and utility to the space and the creator ecosystem. There's that, the sustainability conversation. And then there's just the speculation of like, hey, how long is this going to work? How can I maximize the airdrop potential and get in on the pump and dump that's and what's going to be happening over the next, couple months as they roll out this sort of growth hacking scheme. So I think those are the two different conversations. And what I would recommend is that if you're going to play around in the Friendtech environment, that you should at least have a very clear thesis on like, what are you doing there? Are you there just because you want to speculate and try and like get in on the airdrop and make some quick money? Or are you trying to like look at this as some kind of tool that could actually change, the way that we interact and build build something long-term and sustainable? I think most people there right now are just seeing potential dollar signs and don't expect it to be a very long-term solution for anything. So I don't know. That's my thought. You're muted, by the way.
I'm going to bring up a couple different posts here from some individuals in the space that are covering this rise, basically. So on both of these charts, right, you see Stats' chart as well as Tyler's chart here, you can see that initial kind of pump that we saw and that we covered in early August or mid-August, and now you see kind of a resurgence in that. So he's saying Friendtek's trading volume was 12.3 million yesterday. Total NFT trading volume on ETH was just 9.15. So again, that tie-in between, hey, where are we in the NFT space and where is interest and where is sentiment, that is definitely being brought up multiple times. Let's see if I can't get. So this is Alex Svanovic. I need to make sure I'm getting that one right. The reason Friendtek is taking off is simple. It hits the two primary dopamine pumps in the crypto ape brain: trading FOMO, up only, how's my portfolio doing, etc. And two, social, Twitter, Telegram, Discord. And I love that you brought up like having the discussion in two parts, because that's 100% where my mind goes. There is going to be some really cool way that we're going to be able to trade our friends on X. Even you could make the argument that they're doing it now, but really even an X implementation in the next 2 years is not out of the realm of possibility. And so that was like where my mind immediately went to, GIF. And that I do think there is something to what is happening on Friendtek now. I don't want to immediately say, hey, this is all negative, this is going to go to zero. I think that the app itself and the way it's trading right now is super kind of slimy almost.
It's sus, bro. Dude, when I got in there just a week or two ago, it was just all bots.
Yeah.
It was just not, yeah. And there's so much bot activity. It's honestly, it is slimy. It's gross. It's not my favorite thing, which is why I don't think either of us are like really bullish or trying to pump it or like, you know what I mean? Like you can look, I'm on there. I did it just to check it out. I was going to make a video and then it was already like, it seemed like it was dying as soon as I felt better. You can get gifted keys on there. If you want to go participate with me and check it out in this weird experiment, cool. Not financial advice. I don't like the shill of it. I don't like the Ponzi-nomics, the Ponzi aspect of it. I don't like the bots, the FOMO, all that type of shit. It is, yeah. It attracts a certain type of behavior and a certain type of people. It's very Machiavellian too. I had that realization that like the type of people that love this and do really well are the Machiavellian types, because it's like trading your friends. And so like, you know, there you were saying a lot of the gamification of it is people like buying into other people's rooms saying, hey, come buy my key and then I'll buy your key, and just they're all just pumping and dumping each other's fucking keys right now to try and, you know, and so literally that's Ponzi-nomics. It's Ponzi-nomics on steroids right now.
So Knox, I love the question, man. I don't get these social tokens. I'm going to have to look deeper. And essentially what is happening right now is that there is kind of a liquidity event happening within Friendtek. There's enough of interest around the token. There's enough people there that are kind of flooding that app that people are going to make some cash. And I wouldn't call it easy, but when you look at the actual implementation of what's happening, there is an element where it's going to be easier than, say, flipping a Naka or flipping an NFT PFP right now. A lot of people like we're in the NFT space to just do that. So what's happening right now and the current implementation is people are even buying up a key, joining someone's chat and saying, hey, do this 3-3 with me. I want to make sure I'm getting the implementation right. Essentially, there's an icon that is basically telling the other person, like, I'll buy your key, you buy my key, and we'll profit that way, and we'll kind of shoot up the leaderboard. You do that with enough people, other people start to take interest and are buying your key. Everybody is kind of making money if they're able to be early into that. In literally, that is a Ponzi. So the Ponzi is set up in that way, and that is what is happening currently. Now, I do want to quickly have an aside here. There are people using this app for really cool innovations. If you can have a creator, and the way that it's set up is if you can have a creator provide some type of value to the people that, you know, are just there, it's going to be easier than kind of subscribing. I wouldn't say easier. I said it provides more value than something like an X subscription, or something like following somebody on X, like, or subscribing to somebody on YouTube. That's the innovation piece here. It's like, okay, I have this person. They said that they can provide value via a chat that we're all in, and maybe I get to have a meeting with this person on Zoom or meet this person in IRL because I'm in this person's Friendtek key group. It's access. But it's taking it it's taking it a further step than what we saw with social tokens in 21. It's putting it all in one app. What you saw in 21 was people had to go to Uniswap and these other apps, and then they had to go to Discord and do all of that. So there was all of these pain points. They're putting it in one app. They're saying this. So there's a legitimate use case here. I just don't necessarily think the bonding curve aspect of this makes any sense when it comes to like long-term and longevity of a community. Because it sucks for the 100th person that gets in. Like the chances that you get wrecked as the 100th person is way, way, way higher. Literally, you could assign an actual number to it, more so than the first person.
The bonding curve is really rough, and I think it's an interesting choice the way that they did it. And I was thinking more about like, will they actually update it? Could they even change it? Like, how would that affect the existing key holder? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if they can change it because they've already created certain tokenomics that everybody's purchased into. So there's like entropy, and it becomes very difficult to kind of like work your way out of that and solve for it if you wanted to update the bonding curve. Because yeah, it's very limiting right now and dangerous, like super, super high risk. That's part of the interest. It does, in a way, you could argue it's like almost like a more exclusive OF, you know, to that. It's like you have your regular sort of OF fans and simps over here, but then you've got like, hey, I'm in the like extra cool exclusive club over on FriendTech. So, you know, maybe there's something to that sort of tiered strategy if you're an OF or P-Hub creator or some kind of creator. I'm still wrapping my mind honestly around where I think it goes, but I think we both agree that the idea of social equity being a shared value and something that you can like quote unquote invest in or participate in different ways, there's something to this. And you know, that post, I'm getting better at not calling them tweets. That post that you showed of like the human nature and psychology of all of this, I think is really key, because these are the types of underlying fundamentals about human nature that don't go away. It's part of why we're so bullish on NFTs coming back in general, right? Because these sort of fundamental human behaviors do not go away. And at the same time, liquidity is cyclical and the technology is improving, right? So all of this stuff together is why, that's basically the thesis summed up for me on why I'm so bullish on this shit is, the technology is getting better, liquidity is cyclical, and these fundamentals are always there about human nature. So these social tokens are tapping into that, like these same levers. And that's why, again, like, why did a lot of the NFT people get early onto this? Why is there a lot of liquidity moving over there right now? It's because there is something interesting to this. Whether or not FriendTech will be around a long time may not matter to the people behind it. That's the other important thing to understand, is that they can play the growth hack, tokenomics, gamifying airdrop strategy that they've already proven to be successful with Blur and Art Gobblers in terms of just pumping something to the moon and making a quick bag. They can do this and make a crazy amount of money in just a matter of months. And then it doesn't really matter if they can move on to the next thing. So yeah, I just think it's important to understand that part of it.
Of course. Yeah, guys, we're going to stay in this combo. I see some comments that I want to hit on. I do want to give a shout out for the folks that are commenting, that are here watching. If you're here live on YouTube, that's awesome. If you're watching us on Twitch, if you're watching us on X, if you're watching us afterwards, wherever you may be, you guys are awesome. Please leave a like here on the video. If you can support us, that would be awesome, here on YouTube, on X, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for joining, man. It really means a lot as we attempt to continue to grow this channel and to grow this network so that we can have a bigger voice. Not just us, but you guys, as we grow, I think are going to have an even bigger voice when it comes to talking about things like this. Because who are we gonna comment on? Like when we grow the network, who is going to be the people that we're going to be shouting out more often? It's going to be the folks that were here in the beginning. In that sense, you can kind of see where something like FriendTech makes sense. Like all of those things I just said are kind of being played out in a financial game on FriendTech. Real quick, this is the link again for today's show. I'm going to drop it in chat. If y'all can give it some type of love, that would be awesome. Replies do extremely well there. But that's what we're hitting on today. Friend Tech. We already hit on Parallel. We'll touch on a couple other quick news. Solana phone. We might get to. We'll get to it. But anyways, GIF still on Friend Tech, and then I got some comments that I want to hit as well.
Well, I'm over here.
Okay. Eating. All right, no worries. I'll hit the comments here. Top people have 200 holders, so it's weak. I am always right about everything. Nox Darkness saying that's what Nakas gets for fading GIF. Yeah, that's what you guys
true.
Get.
I mean, look,
you guys would be up 20% the timing, if you want fading GIF.
The timing speaks for itself on this dip, so.
All right, we are getting to, so Prodigy saying I was only asking, let's see, I completely got turned around. Didn't heavies have that voting shit too? It's where most popular people would have more votes. It kind of is, like, I see where you're getting at, where the majority of like people with bigger followers are going to be able to have more votes. So yeah, in that way, it's similar.
They're definitely trying to incorporate some kind of like social games and aspects into the heavy metal forge. I just don't know that they've figured it out either, right?
Yep. Nox saying right, got it. It's still early enough to profit on the Ponzi. That's a great way to talk about it as well. That is definitely what's happening and why there's some interest there.
Doesn't mean you can't get wrecked too, though, right? Just always remember. I got in. I put $50 in. And I quickly turned that $50 into $30, and I said, "All right, that was fun to check it out, but like I'm probably not going to be putting any more money into it, even though, yeah, there probably is money to be made over there." Yeah, I don't like the bonding curves. I don't like the discoverability was trash. I'll go in and check it out just to see how they're updating it. But when I was in there, the UI UX was not good. It was just botted to all hell. Discoverability was trash. The bonding curve is trash. Like,
yeah, people are in there.
And yet they're in there, I guess.
That's the bullish case. People are still using it even with all of those problems. I'm going to bring up two other folks. Red Phone Crypto is an account we always bring up here. I think they have some good takes on the consistent basis. NFT Stats also commented on this kind of friend tech second craze that we're seeing. But before I do that, we often have some interesting discussions in one of the private chats that we're in with some other folks. And one of the interesting things that I think everyone is asking a question about, if you're at home, you've probably asked yourself this question at some point: what's next? Like, we had NFTs. Before that, we had DeFi. Before that, we had maybe social tokens were mixed in there. And then we had ICOs. Before that, we had ETH. Like, what's the next thing? People throw out AI. Potentially, yeah. That's why you see so many people moving that route.
Meme coins.
So,
meme coins.
Okay, so we were having that discussion. Basically, what's next? And the light bulb moment that went off for me, at least when I was having this conversation, was, okay, NFTs took off in 2021. What you did see prior to that was in 2017, early iterations of this stuff. So I think I can confidently say whatever that next thing is already exists here today. So my answer would probably be something like NFTs with a use case. Gaming is something obviously we're huge on here, but we were messing with CryptoKitties back in the day, where to the point where the Ethereum network shut down, basically. Like, nobody could get any transactions through because it just crashed the network. Other NFT projects started to be iterated on that time, CryptoPunks, all that stuff. And then you saw them gain mass appeal essentially in 21. What that looks like now could potentially be social tokens. Like, social tokens were thrown out there. We saw that in 21. They weren't that successful, but maybe you get some better use case around that narrative, and social tokens could be that next thing. I'm not saying they will be. It's such a broad question, but
no, I wouldn't be surprised if 2024 is like a crazy year for social tokens. Because again, I just think that there's too much potential and interest on a human level from playing these social games. And the tech is getting better. Again, it's like we've seen enough experiments, and there's just the opportunity is there for X or Instagram or YouTube or one of these bigger companies as well to figure out how to integrate some kind of social economics in newer, better, more interesting and compelling ways. So I would not be surprised if 2024 we saw some actual like crazy innovation in social tokens.
All right, we're going to jump out of this conversation in just a moment. But before that, I want to get some takes here around X and see what we can hop into. Red Phone Crypto is a great follow. I would definitely, recommend them if you guys are looking for followers to keep up on the space. But he's saying, had this convo with a friend on Friendtech, figured it's happening all over the world right now, so I saved it for posterity. Assuming Friendtech survives, it'll be wild to see how and where it evolves. If you're thinking about the product precisely as it is, it's time to widen your lens. I'm not going to go into the full messaging there, but NFT Stats as well had some great breakdown, more on Friendtech. I think that there's an opportunity to make money on it. That's a great one to start off with, because what people will do is, like, if you don't start off with that, people will inherently just shut your conversation down because they're going to be like, oh, bro, but there's something there. But the fact that he started with that, I think, keeps people open to the rest of his takes. So he's saying, I think there's a lot of opportunity to make money. The use case of connecting with people is real. I know peeps who spend more time there than here. 3, the upcoming airdrop is the engine of the platform. It is what brings ETH to the platform, at least at the current state. Airdrop ETH is what gets creator to care. Creators caring is what leads to the great use cases. A lot of people are holding keys because they think you need high TVL to get an airdrop. That aspect feels risky. The key prices are high because people need to hold. There are other examples. 9, biggest concern is where prices go. And that might be far enough away to not worry. So takes around the board there. I think one thing he hit on, GIF, at least the last thing I'll say, is you were mentioning how Blur initially had this kind of like this token launch, and people looked at it as like, oh, that's super negative for them. You like, look at where the Blur token price is, right? But what that was doing in the meantime was getting people to actually care about that platform in an environment where it was just OpenSea. Like people couldn't even think about the next competitor.
It's just to get people in using the platform and get the DAUs and MAUs up. And some people stick there. You stuck there. I still use it sometimes. And that, so it was successful for them, regardless of what you think. For them, in terms of creating an OpenSea competitor that was extremely difficult, a lot of people didn't see how it would even happen. They somehow did it. And yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that like these guys know how to deploy a gamified airdrop, some kind of tokenomic scheme to growth hack a new app. They've done it multiple times. They're going to do it again here. I think that's what we're already seeing. I think they are going to do it again. And that's why, yes, I do think some people are going to do well if they've been speculating and can figure out how to make some money off of whatever airdrop is most likely coming. None of this is financial advice. I'm not putting a bunch of money there. I think this is super high risk. And as with many of these things goes, just as with Blur, a lot of the people that were farming those tokens that were heavily speculating early, they ended up losing their asses. Like they didn't make money. So I think a lot of people here will lose their asses even if they get the airdrop. A lot of people will speculate. They'll go in too hard. They won't understand exactly how it's going to work. And then it'll be too late. And people will have been dumping. And this shit moves so fast, man, especially with that bonding curve, the way that it works. And there's like only, 50 people in a certain room.
It's 10% each key.
As soon as people start dumping that, it's basically the value's gone. It's like gone immediately. You won't you'll not check the app for an hour, and that shit that was worth an ETH is now worth 0.01. That's how fucking wild this shit is. So I've already gotten wrecked too many times trying to play the DeFi game and not being good enough at it. So I'm interested. We'll be watching it. We'll be covering it. But I'm not going to be dipping a lot of my assets into it.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that red phone conversation here because I think it's probably the most interesting of the ones that I've seen. And definitely the most in-depth when it comes to like him breaking down the thesis. So he's bullish on it. I'm not saying I am, but some iteration of this will exist in 2 years. That's probably going to do extremely well. And it definitely feels like something that's primed I mean, dude, like, here's the other thing. Our ecosystem and our economy and the way that things work in our world right now is that somebody like Joe Rogan, somebody like Tucker Carlson has more influence than something like CNN. Like it's a creator world, and we're only going more that way. Where that plays out on the financialization front is the tough part. And you know what? We host a lot of artists in GM Web3 and artists that watch this show. And unfortunately, if you want to look at it like that, this is just another step towards talking about other things other than the actual creation. It's about, I mean, you could make the argument that the creators are the people that are winning here, but it's more along the financialization front than talking about art and other things that people are super stoked about NFT tech.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man, because you're right. It can definitely distract and obfuscate away from the more important things. And also it can create new tools for creators to create a living, right? So it's like, if you're a smart, enterprising creator out there, which there are some out there that are doing well on this, like, you can find ways to provide utility and create some value through this and sustain yourself. So that's good. But I think overall, it's probably more of a distraction right now. And just there's always going to be a new way for people to get your ETH away from you. You know what I mean? And it's a new casino. The paradigm crew, that team knows how to create a casino, man. They know how to spin up a new casino. So that's all I'll say. Doesn't mean that there's not a lot of opportunity there. I just, this one's very wild. Easy in Crypto saying it's the wild, wild west. This is the wild, wild web. And yeah, everything here is, but especially this part of it is very treacherous.
All right. Just in case is saying China needs to release let me make sure. China needs to release a new, stronger COVID so we can get more stimmies into the space. DP is making the case here for the SEC stepping in. That's definitely something that's like obviously on the peripheral. When you look at these things, they were called shares at first. They were like nothing puts a mark on your back, and it's wild. You What's that? Go ahead.
Well, I was saying I think they did that on purpose. I think yeah.
It's easier to understand. DP, it's also what brings the SEC to the platform. Just make sure y'all have some of that money for the fines. My response is that users rarely get fined. Like what you see with Tornado Cash is not the users of Tornado Cash getting hit. It's the people that actually create the platform that usually fall under that jurisdiction. DP saying y'all act like the feds don't do what they want when they want. That's fair. I mean, we saw the Tom Bilyeu news. That was like probably 3 weeks ago. It feels like a year ago. Easy in Crypto saying, yes, say it good, Q. I don't know exactly what comment you're mentioning there, but it's good to have you here, brother. We are going to move on to other topics of combo here in the NFT space before we round out the episode. Again, thanks for joining, fellas and ladies. Animoca Brands, I just wanted to really cover this. So Animoca Brands secured led a funding round here for the Mocaverse. So Animoca Brands, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. They secured significant funding to build out their Web3 project, Mocaverse. Okay, so it actually came from CMCC Global into Animoca Brands into the Mocaverse. So if you follow that logic, that is what's happening. Mocaverse, I don't think is like really tapped into the zeitgeist with NFTs. Like, at least most people I know like aren't like, oh my God, I'm in Mocaverse, this is great. Like, I think they're still kind of fighting for that awareness. But Animoca obviously backing this project has been the strongest case and the strongest fundamental from the beginning. So you get $20 million of funding that is runway in a environment when not a lot of NFT projects will have that runway. Just to be very clear, like a lot of NFT projects that are even Mocaverse's size are not going to be around in a year or two. So I think that's what you take away from there. They also partner with Whale. So Mocha NFTs are up like 80% in the last week and a half. They've had a great week.
Yeah, we should pull up that chart. I haven't looked at the Mocaverse NFTs in a minute. I know that we were covering them when they dropped and we were both interested, but they were not easy to get. Like, they had It was a difficult mint to get in on, if I remember. One of the interesting
it had an allow list, I think.
Oh yeah, but it was difficult to get in on. That was the thing. Is it wasn't like an open allow list really. What's the floor at?
Floor is at 0.88, up 64% in about the last 7 days. So it's you can see that run up.
Well, congrats to any Mocaverse holders there. There's not a lot of NFTs doing that well at the moment. One of the interesting things that came out of this morning's GM3 is talking about the metaverse conversation again, right? Like,
you look like you're about to say something extremely negative. Like the tone of your voice right now, you're like, here we go.
Well, it's a tough and weird convo that we've kind of gone back and forth on a million times and don't really know that we have an answer per se, but we know some things, and it hasn't been very positive. A lot of that metaverse narrative was all pie in the sky, pure speculation around a concept that didn't even make sense. Like people didn't even understand what it was they were really buying. People were selling these games, metaverse games, this metaverse narrative, coming out of COVID, and there wasn't a lot of there, not a lot of wood behind that arrow. And we see that now. So what is the Mocaverse doing differently? That's the kind of big question mark here. Where are they going to go? One of the things that I think they're doing is focusing a little bit more on IRL locations. So I think that this is also like an access pass to actual club locations. I think they have one in LA. Pretty sure there's something in LA happening. So I don't know. That's just a big question mark that I have over this. And I think what you were just saying, Q, was that companies this size might not be here in a year or two. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's the question mark, right? What are they going to do with that money exactly?
So Mocaverse, I think Mocaverse and Deadfellows are probably along the same market cap. I'd love to search by market cap here, but I don't know if Blur has that feature. I'd be interested to see Andy James's take on Deadfellows. Deadfellows is definitely one where you're saying they're doing this sale. Are they doing it to increase runway? It was so sudden that you're like, what is going on here? I'm just wrapping my head around the trading card game, and now the sale is live. So
the answer to that is yes, for sure. That's part of it. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get to another topic here. I see all the commenters there in chat. Prodigy, DP, Easy. Justin Casey had a great comment earlier. I could pull it back up, but Justin is saying not a lot of wood behind that arrow. God, I love you, GIF.
I got to shout out Prof G. I actually heard that on the Prof G show a couple months ago. So what? You got it from me. I got it from him. Paying it forward, man. Okay,
if we look at this chart as well, obviously a lot of red. One that stands out here is going to be nouns, and I almost said the literature, but the posts about this are hard to find. The initial DAO fork, for Nouns DAO is happening basically now. There is a scenario that is playing out, and there's some on-chain mechanics to this. The blog post itself, the literature, if you will, is tough to read because it gets super in-depth. I have a NFT stats post up here now that kind of explains the situation, right? People can essentially buy back or have a buyback of their NFT at a current price from the DAO. I am super bullish on this concept. I know I get a ton of heat. It sounds like you're financializing an NFT PFP when you say buyback. We're doing buybacks of current NFTs. But what this allows you to do, I think, is get people that don't want to be in the community out of the community, right? They say, oh, I'm going to FUD your floor price for the next 6 months, or I could buy it back at whatever price this is set. And it just flushes your community out. You want to be out? Get out. Honestly, the Tom Bilyeu thing was a really cool idea. Before the SEC comes for us, the buyback of the founders' keys, I think, is what he was trying to do. He was saying, you don't like what's going on here? Well, I'll buy it back at mint price. That is, in my opinion, a cool idea. So this is what's going on now. Nouns DAO Fork is live. Nouns holders can return their nouns and get 35.5 each. I believe that's current market value, by the way. Auctions are now in the 35 to 35.5 ETH range, and 222 nouns, 26% of the current supply, have been entered thus far, with 6 more days to go. So again, I don't want to dive into the literature here, but you can see essentially that Nouns is having, I think, what they're kind of commenting on as a community fork. Like, this is where we're at, and then when all of these nouns are then sold, we're going to just go off into this next portion of our journey. Because it's definitely not a fork.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused by the use of fork here.
Yeah. I think that it's a community fork. I think it's more sentiment.
Seems like more of a spork. The nouns are definitely...
One more of those. You're gone.
You love it. The nouns are definitely in that complexity chasm for me, where there's so much going on and I feel like I'm out of the loop and I don't really know where to start sometimes. But I do like that we're trying to keep up with it, because it's fascinating. They had some people sweeping it for like millions of dollars recently. Like, what's going on with that? You know,
I think it's laid out here. So folks are
oh, here it is. Yeah.
So
all
meanwhile,
right, read what's on the screen. All right.
Yeah, a few wallets have accumulated $1 million positions in Nouns, presumably in preparation for the rage quit payback for the Nouns DAO treasury. So I think what happened was the price fell below whatever this payback price was going to be. So I think they were just meeting in the middle. They're arbitraging it essentially. So I think that was the payback. I can pull up the blur price of Nouns. Maybe we'll be able to figure that out.
So the rage quit is the 35.5 ETH payout.
Yes.
And so they're saying, like, shit, if you're selling it for less than I can get that for.
There you go. So 33, you can see floor price 33, floor price 30.
Dude, that's arbitrage as fuck.
Tis arbitrage as F.
Yo. Man, if you got bags and you know where to look, you can make more bags. I already fumbled most of mine, so I don't know.
Literally the first utility of the space for most people. So
yeah.
All right, I have another quick comment. This is more on the negative side. We're gonna be here for about 5 more minutes, folks. So get any topics that you'd like us to touch on. I'm also gonna pull up. Apparently, DP sent me a DM, so I'm interested in that.
This is. The problem with ordinals is there's just not enough liquidity in these collections to get out. You bought in at such a premium. If you weren't planning to hold this for a long time, then like the people that bought these hoping to flip are just fucked, right? Because you bought it, like, what was it? Two
NFT chain.
Wasn't it like 2 Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Bruh. Like, that's so expensive. At the top of the ordinal hype. I mean, look, shout out Yuga for being on it. Like, good for them, man. They launched an interesting project, an experimental art project on the hype chain when it was popping off. And they were able to raise a bunch more money doing that and create an interesting project. But the people that were speculating and thinking that they could flip when they bought in at 2 Bitcoin, or was it even 2.5? It might have even been higher.
Yeah, it was pretty high. It's pretty high.
That's the problem. There's not enough trading volume or liquidity on these collections to flip.
To be fair, I don't even like this Twelvefold. Like, out of the Twelvefold collection, it's not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite. But there are others that are probably less appealing than this one. To be fair, like, what happened here was somebody with liquidity, to your point, was buying these thinking that, hey, I'm going to profit off this Bitcoin ordinals hype that's going to run the rest of the year. Instead of thinking, hey, this is actually going to be worth a ton in 5 years. This is like, the ordinals are going to be worth, in my opinion, like, they're, again, one of the most prominent projects on Ethereum is dropping a project, one of their first, on Bitcoin. Like, that's the thesis there.
It is their first.
Yeah.
People
are going to look back at ordinals and ask themselves what they were thinking. For the majority, I agree with you. I do think that you have a take there, DP. I think there's people that are tied into maybe even the Stacks ecosystem that would argue that longer term, once the tooling gets built out, that Bitcoin's going to have a good ecosystem of not just art, but different PFPs. Like On-Chain Monkeys moved to PFPs, or their PFP project to Bitcoin, by the way. That was on Friday, or Thursday or Friday, they made that announcement. So
I did see that. Yeah, we didn't really cover it, but I was never into that art. Like, I don't think the art's great. I don't know. I guess that's a pretty big project that I've definitely familiar-ish with, but I've just never gotten into it. But yeah, that's an interesting move. I'm interested why they would do that, other than to try and get a headline and capture some additional, transaction revenue by making a big move, because there's not anything else from a product standpoint that they're able to offer right now. It kind of just seems like a DeGods, like they're just trying to DeGods it, and make a splash. And
I love it.
Yeah,
that was a lot of
it. To be fair, DP saying people are going to look back at ordinals and ask themselves what the fuck they were thinking. I can do that looking back at my bags of ETH NFTs right now. So just to be fair, like, I think that there's a lot of that to go around. I don't think it's just the ordinals people, but what we were talking about as we covered it, and what I feel like is pretty clearly true, is just how much of that, like many hype cycles, how much of that was purely hype and bullshit, and people being sold a bunch of like scams, frauds, rugs, nonsense. Dude, I just remember like looking when we first discovered and pulled up the Magic Eden. Dude, Magic Eden was like part of this, by the way. Like pulling up that Magic Eden metadata chart of all the different ways that they were trying to FOMO you into buying different types of ordinals. Like, oh, these are rare, these are ultra rare, these are super rare. These sats were first owned in one of the first 110 blocks. It's like, dude, all these ridiculous fucking classifications of sats to try and make people think that they're more valuable than others. Like, very few of those matter, if any. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's speculation, right? Like those could, like if ordinals took off in whatever environment that is. Again, we weren't up here like pounding the pavement for ordinals. I think we were saying, hey, this hype is a little bit out of control. What's happening? But if ordinals did take off, maybe the sentiment would be around different sats and all that stuff.
Jesus Christ. DP saying, I'm the whale that NFT founders sell water to. Respectfully. Yeah, right. I don't think I'm that bad or that dumb, but have I bought in on some dumb collections in the past? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you weren't in like on those ones at mint. You know what I mean? Like a lot of plays that you were making were like not mint. So like that's where I think founders are selling the most water, is what I'm saying. So anyways, all right, I'm gonna get into the trailer. DP did say or ask for us to play something that was in my DMs. This is around Web3 gaming, and he said that this is basically his take. Let's listen.
The issue is just as simple as nobody has made anything worth playing comparative to what is in the mainstream. When I get on YouTube and I go search for trailers and I search for gameplay videos of games that are coming out, ask me how often I'm typing in a Web3 title, or even and I understand that we don't have a bunch of Web3 titles out there, but even the stuff that's supposed to be coming to market, the stuff that they're promising us, ask me how many times I look for that stuff to actually look and get excited about the game dropping.
Right. How many?
I'll tell you, 0. It's completely none. No time, no other time. And I'm a crypto Web3 native guy. Like, I've been in the industry since 2017. The issue is,
yeah, but we all know that already. I mean, I think it's a great clip, and it summarizes what we already know. But this is also why. This is a couple things. This is why we're so excited about Parallel, about Rec League, about hopefully what Heavy Metal Forge and Yuga is going to be putting out. Because some of these games are actually starting to get entertaining and sticky and fun and deep and have cool graphics and cool gameplay. And I don't think, to your point, like I don't think we're yet to that point that we have crossover potential in Web3 games, where people are going to be just searching a lot of gameplay trailers and like, oh my God, this next game is just going to blow everybody's fucking minds. Because again, to be able to compete with the Ubisofts, the Square Enixes, the Electronic Arts, dude, to be able to compete with these games is so fucking hard, dude. Like, it's so hard. Like, we just really don't even hold a candle to what most gamers are actually covering and care about on the day to day. Parallel as a trading card game, maybe if there's some like gamers
DP
out there. Yeah. That is DP. Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Okay. I thought you were just dropping another profile. That's dope.
Okay. Shit. Yeah. I didn't know that. Well, now I know what you look like. Shit. That's dope. I feel like I just got to know you a little bit better, man. All right. Now I know who's flaming me in the chat. So like, this is why we're so excited, because we're at that moment where we're starting just now to see some of those first games that have the potential. And it's not just that we're getting to that point where the games are actually starting to be competitive or good enough to get into and play more regularly, because the product is getting better. But the other thing that gets us so excited about being early to these is that we understand and we know that that's where the most potential profit is made. It's the early adopters of these games before the mainstream adopts them that are going to get the outsized returns and rewards from whatever those rewards are. So that's why we want to be early to the things that people aren't covering yet. We want to find the cool shit first. That's why we do this. Like, we're excited to be innovative, on the cutting edge, and hopefully, ride some waves, like get in on some cool shit early.
I agree with 100% of what you just said. Like, the ability to find a game early and actually, just ride that wave in a true sense, other than saying, hey, I'm just going to put, $2,000 in the league and never like see any type of monetary return for my time or anything like that. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like, I just want to own the shit that I have, just like anything else. Just like anything else. Like, I don't want to rent my time on a video game. That's the biggest thing for me. I
loved Kagi's like his hot take on Fortnite. Like, I just want to, I'm going to bring that up a million times. He basically was just like, I'm not going back to Fortnite until I can trade my $2,000 worth of skins that I've collected. So he basically just put his foot in the ground and said, until the games start to provide me some kind of value back, as let me own my assets and get some kind of value back out of these things that I'm putting all of my fucking time, energy, resources, money into, I'm not going to fucking play your games anymore. And I think that he's ahead of the curve, because eventually I think more gamers start to adopt that. It's just when and how long does that take? Yeah. I don't know.
And to DP's point, like, you need to have actually good games. That's why we sit up here and are actually talking about Parallel like nerds. It's because we actually have fun playing it. And then all the other stuff can kind of fall into line. All of these games prior to this generation were just crypto games masquerading as NFT games. Hopefully what you see in this next wave is that NFTs actually start getting used. You see that with, even though Heavy Metal Forge kind of sucks, you see the implementation. It's not just around, hey, let me earn this token. Let me play to earn. That was the whole fucking movement, because the whole movement was based on crypto games. These are actually NFT games, or games with NFT components that actually make more sense.
It's kind of like Web3 games are going through the evolutionary steps of like, okay, we were at the very basic sort of CryptoKitties, breeding, which I don't even know what the analog to that is. But then it's like we moved into the casino slot machine, right? Which is like Axie Infinity, which is what you're talking about. These are just crypto games. They're just basically pure gambling, and like, yeah, some people can make money, but basically at the end of the day, it's a Ponzi and everybody loses. The house is winning, but it's not that fun. It's not a good game. You're just fucking pulling a lever, hoping to get a dopamine rush, and maybe you make a little bit of money back. It spits you back a coin or two. It keeps you.
When you stop making money, you leave.
But when you stop making money, you lose your ass. You fucking leave. You're out of the casino. So we kind of graduated to the slot machine at the casino with like Axie Infinity and the play to earn shit. And now I feel like what we're graduating into is the arcade, right? So now we're moving into that arcade where some of the games are actually fucking cool. And it's like, yeah, there can be the tickets and the rewards and different things too. We're not yet to the like, we're not really to that next level of like the home, high end console gaming PC, like that game evolution step yet, or the handheld mobile step. We're not to those evolutions yet with Web3, but I think we are getting into that arcade, like next evolutionary cycle where you're going to actually have some like hits and some cool games come out of that. Like the first Pac-Man and the first Android, you know what I mean? Like those first sort of like arcade game hits, Mario's, we're going to see those in this round of games in the next year or two.
The most energy and the most activity in this industry is around how fast can I make money quickly. And therefore, all of the people that go to those accounts on YouTube and go to those accounts on X, they're looking for that. And that's what gets the most interest. What I'm telling you right now is that we had one of, in my opinion, the most profound interviews, at least if you read between the lines, with Mark last week, where he was having a project that was essentially attached to a larger business model in crypto payments, but he had an NFT project. And what he said was like the most profound thing ever. He's like, we're using it for the use case that NFTs provide, is that there's tangible value between the people that build the product and the people that actually invest or spend their time with that product. And but it's not a full use case for us, right? It's a tool that we're using to bootstrap our community and bootstrap our project. Not whole thing is our business model. That's what's crazy about this. Like that's what's the implementation that you need to focus on if you're a Web3 game. Not how much money can we make? How much can we do? How much? Blah, blah, blah. It's just what Web3 assets provide you is an ability to bootstrap and growth hack your initial community. It's hard, like Gifted is saying, to make a fucking good game. You see it across all of Steam. There's like thousands and thousands of games, and maybe 3 or 4 that are majorly played. And those games have been around for 10 fucking years. What Web3 is going to allow these fucking small Steam communities to do is bootstrap and growth hack a community of 1,000 people that are really interested in what they're doing. That's it. Like, stop trying to change the fucking world. Stop trying to have these metaverse plans. Like that, the use case for the NFTs is to allow people to share in the value at that small level, at least initially. That is one major use case. Dude, Mark hit it on the head more so than I could ever. But
dude, I think Mark has a better understanding of this space than almost anybody we've talked to. Like just from talking to him, he's super smart.
Sexy. It's not, what he said wasn't sexy. It wasn't like I'm going to create the next PFP that's going to be the next Nike or the next Supreme or this awesome fucking cartoon. Like
no, he's creating actual products.
He's creating a product, and he's having a fucking community that's going to share in value between what they're creating. And he said it's not going to be the biggest part of our business. That what we're talking about, dude, is not talked about on X, on Twitter, on Discord at all. It's how do we get the next 10X? How do we get on to Netflix? How do we get on to how do we become the next Cyberpunk or GTA 5? Like, how are we building that? Fuck off. But nobody wants to have that convo, dude. We're the only ones, it feels like, that wants to have that convo. That's saying this is just a small part of building a good game. This initial point, it can allow you to growth hack more than just building on Steam and hoping you get some type of interest. Nobody wants to have that convo, man. And it triggers me more since we had that discussion, because I see it on the day-to-day. People just want to hype into the next friend tech. I'm all for it, dude. But you're missing out on, and the space is missing out, is what I'm saying. Like we care more about that shit. I'm okay with that. I've degened, but we don't get the cool shit. We don't get the cool shit.
Yeah, I think though that Yeah, the people that do get into these things and are it's like the people that are out there discovering and curating and buying legit artists right now and like doing all this stuff that isn't necessarily the easiest, quickest flip or the sexiest thing. Like these are the people I think that win in the end. I think most of those degens and traders, they fizzle out. Like yes, some people make a bag. That's why people do it, because some people are doing well. There are some flippers and traders out there that are just really fucking good at it. And like, dude, if you're good at that, holy shit, I wish I was you. But most of those people, I think end up losing their asses eventually. And the people in this space that I think are going to do well over the next 5 years are those people that are not as distracted by the shiny new object, that are paying attention to like what are the cool teams, the cool developments, the cool products, the cool artists, etc., and just doubling, tripling down on that shit right now. That's what we're trying to do, hopefully, while also covering the latest crazy shit like the friend text. It's a lot, and it is frustrating because we see where all that time, energy, and attention goes. And it's
it's frustrating not from my personal perspective. It's just frustrating that we're not going to move this along as fast as it could be moved along. We're eventually going to get there.
That's life. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're eventually going to get there. Yeah, true. It's like that meme with like the futuristic city and like this is where we would be if like Twitter didn't have DMs. Like this is what X would be if we didn't have DMs. It's like this perfect society. So yeah, anyways.
Yeah. All right. Where are we? We need to be the next No Man's Sky, striving to deliver the games and building the community without trying to drain the communities financially. Okay. Quite frustrating, isn't it? Yes, obviously.
You do that when you have a model built on something that doesn't have an actual business model. Like that's the thing with art. It feels like with artists in the space, man. And again, I have a hard time coming at it from this perspective because I didn't build as an artist in this space. So and I'm not a traditional artist, but it feels like there's a lot of artists in this space that are like, why can't I make it in NFTs? And like you get a lot of that feeling. And I'm just like, dude, this has to be a portion of what you're doing, not everything. Unless you can use that NFT growth hack and be the one that catches lightning in a bottle, which we saw a few do, then you have to just have this as a piece, not as something. Because then what you do is you throw out we see it with PvP or PFPs. If you don't make it, if you don't lightning in a bottle it, then you're just fucking bleeding your community dry. And then it's a fucking slow death march towards zero because you're like, holy shit, I don't have a business model. Let me release another PFP collection. And by the way, that drains the current equity of your current holders because you're introducing that. Dude, it's so I don't know. Maybe GIF, if you got something on that art piece, like, do you have that feeling about artists kind of just like, it feels like they're complaining that they're not making it in this space? Like, do you have that feeling ever?
Yeah, it's kind of a long convo to talk about where art's at in general. But here's the thing is that at this point, a lot of people have invested a lot of themselves into the space. I'm one of those people, right? And I'm frustrated and I have my own concerns and frustrations with how certain things have gone. I could talk about that for days. But there's a lot of people that came into it and saw the people around them get accolades, do particularly well, bought into a narrative that if I do XYZ, then I should sell X amount, or I should, or the, some of it's entitlement for some people. I obviously they're not all entitled. Some people just, expecting that they should be where they're not for XYZ reasons. Some of it is again, it's just the frustration with seeing the consistent rugs, Ponzi's, grifters, shitty founders, even maybe bad artists that they don't even think are good artists, or crappy art that gets sold for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, while maybe they've been creating what they think is legitimate art for years, and they're just not able to get that same kind of attention and interest in their NFTs. But I liked your point about, like as an artist, you shouldn't be looking at NFTs as a solution to anything other than being a new medium. You know, like you shouldn't look at NFTs like this is my way to get rich as an artist. You should see this as an interesting new medium to experiment with and create experiences, do things differently than you've done it with other mediums. If you have an idea, you know, to express your style in a new way, to create connections in new ways. But if you're an artist, you should be creating art no matter what, with any medium, and building yourself and your portfolio as an artist. And I think that there's a lot of artists that didn't like sort of dedicate entirely or depend entirely on the space. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that said, I'm an NFT artist now and this is all I do. Some of them made it, a lot of them didn't. They're in a much harder spot than the ones that said, I'm an artist first and foremost. I'm going to keep creating art and building my brand as an artist. And then also just, you know, making sure that I stay consistent doing some NFTs and stuff too, to stay relevant here. Those people are probably doing fine. You know, I know like there's people like Eddie Gangland, right? Like,
yep,
that dude's fucking killing it right now. You know, he's done really well with NFTs, but like he's also just churning out like a piece of art every day or something and selling them for thousands of dollars now. He wasn't doing that pre-NFTs. He used NFTs as a launch board for his art career, not his art career as a launch board for his NFTs. And I think that's the difference, right?
Yeah. And we'll stop the conversation here. But honestly, like, Griff, I fuck with a lot of the takes you were talking about, because my response is more towards the people that like NFTs are dead. It's like NFTs aren't dead. The people that try to use them in a certain way are. You know, it's as simple as that. Like, they're not what this golden ticket that everybody thought they were, but they're actually really cool when used correctly. And
dude, and I'll
on front tech. Go ahead,
dude. I'll also add to that though. A lot of the narrative or belief of some kind of golden ticket was based upon fraud. Right. And so obviously, like, you know, we cover scams and frauds, and like, I think that the tech is legit, but it's been used a lot of different bad ways. And the honest truth, as somebody who knows a lot of artists who have done both well and not well, I can tell you that the amount of backdoor dealing, manipulation, and outright fraud that built a lot of these artists into being like the it guy or like the superstar in NFTs is not real. Like, there's a lot of big artists in NFTs that like they launch themselves using just shady social engineering or people pumping liquidity behind the scenes, or doing these like the friend tech deals in the fucking DMs. Like, hey, you buy my shit, I'll buy your shit. So like, just know that a lot of it's just been a social game of like manipulation in the background too. And dude, the art market in general is like that. So
yeah, that's a great point too.
Also, don't even think that it's just NFTs. Just understand, if you're an artist, dude, so much of art is just being a good artist, and so much of it is also the social fucking like
game creators,
Machiavellianism of like,
there's
this
a lot
over
of
this, trading this for that, like tit for tat, like my shit's better than your shit, social equity, and market manipulation. And what's the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, social status, bro. So much of it is just fucking social status. And who do you know? So just don't be too hard on yourself. No,
I'm glad we bring up like multiple different sectors, but you know, there's a parallel there with gaming as well. There's like a lot of shit games out there. So when someone's like, hey, you know, like I stand up here and talk about how shit Web3 games are right now. There's a lot of Web2 games that are shit. The most played games have been around for like 10, 12 years. Like, there's not a lot of new shit coming out for these games, right? Like, to the point where you're seeing a WoW Classic remake is the most popular. Like, we can't get new games. There's a lot of struggle that happens at the creator level too in gaming. So anyways, we have to get out of here. We're going to be back, of course, Web3 tomorrow with the GM Web3 morning show there at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to jump over here 1 p.m. Eastern. We're here every day. with y'all fine folks getting after it, talking about NFTs, talking about Web3, getting deep in the weeds sometimes. But we appreciate you guys joining us. Leave a like before you head out of here today and finish whatever you've got going on. But we will see you again tomorrow. Gif, send us out, brother.
I am excited for another full week of getting to cover the Web3 space with all of y'all. Big love and appreciation. I'm excited to go try and play a couple games of parallel with the patch, see how my Shroud does. Congrats on your big win, Q, for the boys. Don't like to really celebrate the Cowboys these days, but you know what? There was a phase in my history where I was living in Dallas during undergrad, and I was a Cowboys fan. So you know what? I'm happy for you. And with that, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a great day. Our vibe, our tribe.
OVOT.